The topic is going to be Caldeans, and the question for the day is, what does the number 7 mean to you? So we're going to go around the room. It's a small room today, and see how everybody's doing. And what does 7 mean to you when you hear that number, that vibration? First, we'll start off with what's happening in the sky. On June the 14th, so which is in, what's that, 7 days? Or what are we at today? The 8th, 6 days? There's going to be a full moon. And the full moon, and you're hearing a lot of people, is going to be in Gemini, right? And Sagittarius, or the full moon itself in Sagittarius and the sun in Gemini, but it's not. It's at the cusp of Taurus, and the sun will be at the cusp of Taurus and Gemini, and you'll note that it's going to be within Orion's belt. So it's aligned with Orion's belt. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the moon is going to be very close to Russell, which is the star at the head of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. You've heard me talk about Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, the one that splits the Ouroboros, the head from eating the tail. So that's a pretty cool Orion and Ophiuchus exchange. What's important to know about when you look at this diagram here of Orion and Orion's belt and what's in the Bible, in Job 38:31, can you tie the Pleiades together or loosen the bonds that hold Orion? That bond they're talking about is the bond with spirit, with love. That's what that means. And this is a part in the Bible where they're saying, can you do certain things? How can you deny a God? How can you deny a spirit? How can you deny an essence? And what's holding it all together? What's the glue, right? So something important to see, that he's holding the flail. It's hard to tell whether or not he's got the crook in his hand too or not. The crook is like a hook, and the flail is something, so you hook onto the wheat and you flail the grain off. Remember, the grain, the seed, is what has the potential. Like Ken Wheeler says, here, I'll sell you this acorn, right? Because it's an oak tree, and you're going to make about 50 grand off this oak tree. So I'll sell it to you for 10 grand because it's the potential. So Orion, when you're carrying the crook and the flail, it's self-harvesting. Okay, so in other words, Orion is shown here. He's got the wad stick. He's been endowed with self-harvesting, that he can go around and lead forth the Mazzaroth through the ages. The belt is symbolic of the bond that he has with spirit. And that's why it has, can you loosen the bond? Some people say the band, okay, but it's the bond, the spirit. So the sun is going to be transiting Orion's belt, while the moon aligns with the serpent bearer. The serpent bearer shows you that he's taken apart the bond of the head eating the tail, the different kind of bond, the one that allows you to be Orion, self-harvest. In other words, you're always going to do the things that make you more towards love, more towards spirit. So it's pretty interesting that Russell Hog is right across from Orion's belt. Pretty neat. So that's what's happening in the sky. I was going to throw in here, but didn't, but I'm just going to make a brief mention. So I'll probably bring it up in the next week or so. But if you remember when we had all the planets go one and another into retrograde, well, it's happening again. Like, I'm not sure if this is a cycle. I couldn't find a cycle, but it's happening again, where many of the planets are going to go retrograde all on the one side. So that's going to affect a lot of natals, a lot of natals. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Caldeans, the number 7, and Revelation. So I'm going through and I'm using references to the things that I found, because it's better that we show references. People like references, right? So Bible myths and their parallels in other religions. We have in the first decade the sign of the Virgin. Following the most ancient edition of Persians, the Caldeans, the Egyptians, Hermes, Asclepius, not sure how that's pronounced, a young woman called in Persian language, Seklidos di Darzama, in the Arabic, and Drenedessa, that is to say, a chaste, pure, immaculate virgin suckling an infant, which some nations call Jesus, i.e. Savior, but which in Greek we call Christ. I mean, you know, with all the metaphysics and the Bible classes we've been doing, we know that there is an immaculate virgin and an infant in all cultures. According to the Chaldean account, which is the oldest one, there were 7 persons saved in the ark. There were also 7 persons saved according to some of the Hindu accounts. That this referred to the sun, moon, and 5 planets looks very probable, which we've all heard. Of course, the 7 days of the week are the 7 planets: sun, moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury. It is well known that the Caldeans were great astronomers. When Alexander the Great conquered the city of Babylon, that's probably not literal. The Chaldean priest boasted to the Greek philosophers who followed his army that they continued their astronomical calculations for 40,000 years. So like Freemasons, monads, all the different groups of truthers that were great philosophers, astrologers, the history books get a little skewed. They like to talk about wars and all kinds of things like that. No, it's a change in times, it's change in seasons, it's change in the 558-year cycle where we take back government, we take back the churches. Anyway, moving right along. In astrotheology, etymology, word meanings. The Chaldean name of the sun was Chris. Of course, karas means to caress with oil, hence Crisco oil. Christ was called the Anointed One accordingly. Many of the ancient peoples were siderealists. And remember, proper astrology of what's in the sky. In square brackets means I've added it. So many of the ancient peoples were siderealists. What's in the sky is what you look at, not shifted based on seasons, which is a misunderstanding. The early Semites, Indo-Aryans, the Chaldeans, Teutons, and Celts, etc. So they were all using the proper astrology. So they were astrologers, the Chaldeans. The Light of Egypt, or The Science of the Soul, the Stars, Volume 1 by Thomas Burgoyne. Chaldean sages, therefore, when constructing their mighty system of sidereal astrology, held to this idea throughout the world of their philosophy. Consequently, this Chaldean science of the stars, in order to be practically utilized, must be thoroughly realized. But when realized, it will pay the student 100-fold for the time and labor bestowed in learning the way. So I put a picture down here of sailing the stars. If we learn how to navigate the stars, the planets, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7, that's steering this life to where we're supposed to be going. And that's what they mean by it will repay a student 100-fold for the time and labor bestowed in learning the way, because the stars in the Bible point the way. And lastly, remember that this ancient system of the horary sages who first discovered the starry truths of Chaldean lore constitutes the basic principle from which all doctrines, occult theories, and sacerdotal systems have radiated. Every religion under the sun has an astrological foundation. Pretty cool, eh? This we know. But it's good to just keep reading these things in different sources from all these people who know, to just make you feel proud that we're on the right path. If you go look in the Bible about Chaldeans, all you hear is war stuff. Who took over this? Who took over that? Again, that's misinterpretations of truthers sharing truth. Truth about the music that was put in the churches, the vibrations for healing, places where people can go and feel good, right? All those beautiful churches, the stained glass, the colors of the rainbow coming through the stained glass, all beautiful signs. All those were kind of misused, and then we take them back and use them again. So all those things about wars and that you hear in the Bible are just the 558-year cycle of coming back to these moments of truth. This one's special now because we go into Age of Aquarius. So the last four, of course, were a little sketchy, especially with no collective consciousness like the internet. Bible myths and their parallels in other religions. It may be well to notice a striking incident in the legend we have been treating, i.e., the frequent occurrence of the number 7 in the narrative. For instance, the Lord commands Noah to take into the ark clean beasts by 7s and fowls by 7s, and tell him that in 7 days he will call it to rain upon the earth. We're also told that the ark rested in the 7th month and the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. After sending the dove out of the ark for the first time, Noah waited 7 days before sending it out again. After sending the dove out the second time, he stayed another 7 days ere he again sent a 4th dove. So remember, the ark is the rainbow. It makes an arc in the sky, and it has the 7 colors. And remember, I put this here, I set the clock, because the 7th month brings us to July, when the mother goes retrograde. There are cultures that celebrate. They're using a solar lunar calendar, but they used to only use the lunar calendar. After she goes direct, the first new moon is the first month. So when you count that way, you get to all these different celebrations when people knew that when she went retrograde, the river Nile flooded. So not only is Sirius rising, right, which Orion's belt 3 kings points to, not only is Sirius rising, the mother has gone retrograde. And when she goes retrograde, the river Nile floods. I've showed you that graph before. So you'll see this 7th month, and then 17th day, 7th day, whatever day that is, that leads to that day when she goes retrograde. That changes year over year. But it's the same day, but it's not how many moons and days that it goes to that midpoint in July. This coincidence arises from the mystic power attached to the number 7, derived from its frequent occurrence in astrology. We find that in all religions of antiquity, the number 7, which applied to the sun, movement of 5 planets, known to the ancients, is a sacred number, represented in all kinds and sorts of forms, for instance. So the fact that the planets, the days of the week, are related to the colors, there's absolute incredible healing powers there that we are yet to uncover. A lot of people are trying, I know, but we're going to get it. So here's some examples of 7s, and some of these things you already said. The candlestick with 7 branches in the Temple of Jerusalem. Remember, picture your body with the 7 chakras, because that's related. The 7 enclosures of the temple, the 7 doors of the cave of Mithras, the 7 stories of the Tower of Babylon. Again, your body, your being, Babylon's falling. You think you're in control. The 7 gates of Thebes, the flute of 7 pipos, generally put in the hand of the good Pan. The lyre of 7 strings touched by Apollo. The 7 prophetic rings of the Brahmins, remember? The 7 stones consecrated to the 7 planets in Laconia. The division into 7 castes adopted by the Egyptians and Indians. The 7 idols of the bones. The 7 altars of the monument of Mithras. The 7 great spirits invoked by the Persians. The 7 archangels of the Caldeans. Archangels. The rainbow. The 7 archangels of the Jews, the 7 days in a week, the 7 sacraments of the Christians, the 7 wicked spirits of Babylonians. When you see the wicked spirits of the Babylonians, when Babylon's falling, that's related to the 7 scorpions of Isis, which we'll touch again a little bit later. The sprinkling of the blood 7 times upon the altars of the Egyptians, misinterpretation. The 7 mortal sins of the Egyptians. The hymn of 7 vowels chanted by Egyptian priests. Who said 7? I think it was Carlos that said the 7 vowels. The 7 branches of the Assyrian tree of life. Agni, the Hindu god, is represented with 7 arms. Suras, again, 7 scorpions of Isis, right? Eris, the goddess of discord and strife. That's what's all called during one of these so-called pandemics, because people don't understand why it's happening. Suras' horse was represented with 7 heads. 7 churches are spoken of in the apocalypse. We're going to touch a little bit on that. And that's why I was hoping Karen would be here today to talk a little bit with us. We might continue with as much more, but enough has been shown to the statement and all of verified that religion's antiquity, the number 7 is a sacred number, which we know. So the number 7 in the Bible, the Common English Bible, was over 700 times. Well, you can see here exactly 700. In Revelation, that what we're interested in is 37 times. So we're just going to mention them here. And if you get any signs or have any desires to figure out what's the meanings in the Revelation, it's probably a good thing to do. So before we move forward, just going to remind you that Revelation 12:1, the Phoenix rising, that's happening in the sky, that happens every 558 years. What brings the 7 scorpions of Isis, which causes all of your Jacob's ladder, your chakras to cleanse. That happens April 15th, 2023. So we're dawning, we're cusping it, right? So we're getting a new sun, a brighter rainbow. You can see the sun's brighter. People are noticing. It looks like an arc weld in the sky. It's more bright white. That means it's going to have a brighter rainbow. People are seeing amazing double rainbows. I had to mention that again because I keep mentioning it, right? It's your own personal Phoenix rising, your own cleansing, your own anointing. We talked about this in week 10, March 16th, 2022. So in the book of Revelation 1:12, I turned to see who was speaking to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 oil lamps burning on top of 7 golden stands. He held 7 stars in his right hand, and from his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword. His appearance was like the sun shining with all its power. What were people seeing? I'm going to share something with you that I've seen. As for the mystery of the 7 stars that you saw in my right hand and the 7 gold lampstands, here is what they mean. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. Interesting, eh? All metaphysical meaning. Revelation 4:5, from the throne came lightning, voices, and thunder, and in front of the throne were 7 flaming torches, which are the 7 spirits of God. 5:1, the Lamb takes the scroll. Then I saw a scroll in the right hand of the one seated on the throne. It had writing on the front and the back, and it was sealed with 7 seals. So the metaphysical meaning of these is still yet to be determined. I have thoughts. Get to an example next. But until I know 100%, I'm just going to say, working on it. As we all are. And we all give each other hints and signs. So it's all of us. Revelation 15:1. Song of Moses and the Lamb. Then I saw another great and awe-inspiring sign in the heaven. There were 7 angels with 7 plagues. And these are the last, for with them God's anger is brought to an end. So when you said the sea is filled of jellyfish, Elaine, I see Elaine's just connecting back in. So I'm not sure if you heard me say Revelation 15:1, Elaine, but I'm going to re-say it. The Song of Moses and the Lamb. Then I saw another great awe-inspiring sign in the heaven. There were 7 angels with 7 plagues. And these are the last. And for them, God's anger is brought to an end. We're going to see these signs of Mother Nature in many forms. That's what I see that's happening in Revelation. Will it be different for Age of Aquarius at this cusp? Don't know. All the facts and data that we've acquired to date show that it happens every time, not just during the Piscean age. There's a 2017 study that just got put out where there was an earthquake that drained a lot of the water in Egypt. And it was 209 BC. Well, there was a Phoenix rising in 209 BC. Hold on to our behinds. Mother Nature is giving me signs, incredible signs, including yesterday. I'll talk about it later if we have time. So when they're saying that they see these 7 colors, these 7 lampstands, the 7 angels, the 7 arcs, I've had several times in different ways, but in 3 times, I had this snake-like thing project out from my eyes. And it was just, I tried to find something that I could draw it with, but it's basically triangles stuck together of brilliantly colors of the rainbow. And as they swifted, so it was like a snake and it moved side to side, back and forth in front of my view with my eyes open or my eyes closed. So this was a snake of 7 colors, always changing in brilliant different colors depending on what angle they were at. It happened to me again when I was at a friend's house. There was a bunch of people over and she was on the other side of an island in her kitchen. And there was all kinds of people crosstalk and she wanted to talk to me. And all of a sudden it came out. And she could see that I could barely hear her. So she walked all the way around to me and I'm just in awe because this thing's coming out of my third eye in my view, just sweeping from side to side. And she came up to me, started talking, and the thing locked in on her forehead here and just went zzz, 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 zzz. And she's talking, I couldn't even hear what she was saying. I was just so focused on what was happening. Nothing happened after that. I've had it happen a couple of times where it went around my eye. And then after that, it never happened again. So is this what they see? They're seeing the colors. They're seeing the colors of the rainbow. It's a form of a snake. So colors may end up coming into your view in many different forms. It may not be a snake. It may be in lampstands. And then people have to put words to it. What happened to me? So that's my take on it, because it's happened to me with those beautiful, brilliant colors. And I keep trying to get it to come back. I try to manifest it. And I see colors start coming and then I get scared, get jarred, and then it goes away. So I thought I'd share that with you. But most of this is about the 7 scorpions of Isis, the cleansing of our chakras. Revelation 21:9. And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And that would mean, obviously, Isis, Mary, McTucklewaddle, White Buffalo Calf Woman, Awyan, whatever you want to call her. But the 7 scorpions of Isis is just that. With the new sun, with the brighter sun, we get this anointing, this clearing of the pathway to raise the Christ oil. That's all I have for today. So in recap, the Caldeans, the number 7, and astrologers, and the Bibles, and this cycle of Phoenix risings is all related. The Holy Grail has been found. She always goes away and then we lose sight of it. Our minds go somewhere, but that happens only in the Piscean age. So now we can move forward and you can never forget, which is awesome.